Well, welcome to my channel Mispronounced Adventures. My name's Alex and welcome to the Nordic Arctic Round 3. Oh, hang on, I've already used this intro.
Welcome to Nordic Arctic Round 3.
And this one. Well, welcome to my channel Mispronounced Adventures. And this one. And this one as well. All right, let's just film a new up-to-date intro.
Well, welcome to my channel Mispronounced Adventures. My name's Alex and welcome to Arctic Trip Round 3.
Personal record, minus 38.
Or the last episode of the Arctic trip, which is going to be the catch up. Last year's episode went down very well, so I thought I'd do it again and show you how much it costs to do a few months trip to the Nordic Arctic. Quite clearly, I'm not in the Arctic at the minute. I'm actually in Zanzibar. So I've got a few days off from work when I'm doing a reconnaissance trip in Malawi, Tanzania.
Summit.
So, I thought this would be a great place to film a trip about how much it costs to be in the Arctic. So, let's get on with it.
So, the way I actually log the trip is I use Revolut cards. So, Revolut is a digital bank which I've used for a couple of years, and I use it on all my international trips like this, all the Arctic trips. And there's two main reasons I do that. One, every time you do a purchase, it logs it on your app, and it automatically breaks it down into different categories. So, it's quite easy for you to sort out trip costs and what that money actually went on afterwards. The second reason is I don't get international fees, which is pretty good because I do a lot of travel work and international fees do clock up quite a lot if you're using just a normal UK bank card. Although I know some banks now don't do that. And whilst I've got two physical cards, a MasterCard and a Visa card, I don't actually use them very often. I can just add them directly onto my Apple Pay from the app and I use them for there. So we're going to go through each of the itemised categories on my Revolut to show sort of how much the trip cost and then the final total amount at the end. Because I think it's important to. I spend enough of my time making these videos showing hardware-wise what you need to do to the vehicle, what sort of equipment I have and my background, but a huge part of coming up to the Nordics is the cost, and they're well known for being expensive countries, so I think it's a good option to show people how much it would cost if you did come up here. If you want to find out more about Revolut yourself, I'll put my invite code in the bottom of the video so you can check it out. But onto the actual sections. So first one, general, pretty boring one, £29.98, and that's for my metal Revolut membership, which is about £14.99 a month. And the reason I use that is it extends the amount of international transfers I can have, and that works out cheaper than the international transfer fees when I go over that limit. And it gives me a bunch of other bonuses as well. So that's the cheapest category, general. Next category is entertainment, and that was £300 in total. Entertainment for this trip was visiting the Ice Hotel in Finland, the main ice hotel in Kiruna, and the Amethyst mine in Finland as well. Previous years it's also been things like the dog sledding and snowmobiling. And that's going to range for different people who come up here and you want to do different things. Also probably cheaper if you are at a group or a couple. It usually works out the prices for groups are actually cheaper than individual than doing a lot of things by myself. Next section, restaurants. And that turned out to be a grand total of £497. And this is always going to be relative to how much you eat out really. So for me, I usually eat out about once a week on the trip.
I've gone for the Winnie the Pooh fish burger.
Unless I'm hanging out with other people. So when Joe came out or I meet up with other vans, then you end up eating out more, costs a bit more as well. That also includes cafes. It also includes, I'll go to a pub or a bar for a pint.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And in the Nordics, pints are expensive, that adds up pretty quick. Obviously if you're by yourself, going out and eating is a bit cheaper. If you're a couple travelling in the Nordics, it's going to be a lot higher because you're paying for double the food and drink. Next up, groceries and food shopping. Probably a bit cheaper for me. I'm quite boring. I only make cheese toasties, spice sausages, and fry up that diced potato stuff, which I quite like. Although another big expense of that will be buying beer.
In bed, beer, watching some Star Wars. Quick series of unfortunate events. I had a beer in my pocket, my jacket, which my keys punctured and spilt beer all over my jacket and my trousers. So I currently washed the jacket out to get the beer out of it. But I forgot that the U-bend under the van has frozen.
Beer.
Late night beverages, Joe style versus Alex style.
Leave my beer alone.
Still expensive in can form. In the shops, it's like could be €4 or €5 a can, or my crippling addiction to energy drinks, which we repeatedly see during most driving scenes.
Oopsie daisies, my energy drink is in the process of opening itself for me. Yeah, as I was speaking. Oh my goodness, I've just had the realisation I bought a sugar-free energy drink.
But for me, £605 for the 2-month trip on Groceries, which is, I think, pretty similar to last year's actually. Right, next category is shopping, and that was a grand total of £887. Most of that was my silly trips to things like Motornet or some of the other similar shops to go buy components for my electrical projects, for fitting the lights, and just buying things that I wanted, really. Another good chunk of that was also the breakdown which happened in Kiruna later on in the trip.
And that's how you easily remove an alternator from a vehicle. I just snap the top of that water pump off.
Which had quite a few purchasing of different parts for the van and tools.
The one from this sec, I don't really need the entire toolkit, because I'm pretty sure I've got the new part. There we go.
Although some of that was refunded, about £247 that was refunded, so I think that makes it about £640 on shopping. That's obviously a category where it depends what you want to do. If you like buying lots of souvenirs, it's going to cost you more. If you like buying cabling and lights and random components for silly projects like I do, then it's going to cost you a lot. And a category I didn't use last year was cash. I took out £307 of cash for this trip. This was just for a purchase, which is buying snowshoes.
These are what I want.
Mainly for that most northerly point trip.
Oh, I'm excited about today. Oh, this is why snowshoes work quite well. This will be slogging out of this.
Where I got naked for some reason. Woo! I want to buy myself quite a nice pair of snowshoes because I will use them in the future. And that particular day in the shop, the cash machine wasn't working, so I needed to go get some money out. And I think I bought a bit of other kit there as well. So that's another purchase which isn't necessarily relevant to the total trip price as an average, because that was a personal expense. So this category is travel, and that's what gets put down as accommodation, a bit like where I am at the minute. But being in my van, I don't usually use accommodation, I don't need to, although it is nice a couple of times on a trip to pop into a campsite for a number of reasons, hook up if I need to, which is very rare, but more likely I want to fill up and get some new water and so on like that, or it's just nice to go have a different shower. This trip had 2 nights on a campsite earlier on. One night on a campsite after I had the issue of the diesel freezing and I couldn't get it started for a day.
Oh, almost. In Rovaniemi, and I'm going to try this park up tonight. Right, all paid up, €27.9, but sauna, showers, and good internet signal.
And during the incident of the van breaking down and the alternator issue, I spent about 6 nights at Camp Rippon in Kiruna waiting for parts, and that was necessary. If I can't start the engine and drive, I can't charge the batteries and I can't run the heater. So having the option for me to go to campsites, especially for the electrical hookup, is an important one, and that does have a cost. But generally of the trips, I don't use campsites. The campsite in Kiruna was only about €26 a night, and it was absolutely lovely.
And before we get to the final transport section, I'm just going to say
This video's got a partner, EcoFlow. So I've worked with EcoFlow for a couple of years now, mostly on their large power banks, where I've done silly things from turned one into a boat, dressed up as a pirate and got drunk. And I generally use power stations in my day-to-day use. On the Arctic trips, I usually have a power station with me as a backup system.
I just use the EcoFlow and a heat gun.
Particularly the River 2 for my drone charging station.
battery is back on charge. We can actually set off for the day.
But they've got a slightly new product coming to market. The EcoFlow Rapid Magnetic Power Bank, and I've got the 5000 mAh version. So, approach a big power station, little power banks. And these are the sort of things people use in day to day. And I use them when filming quite a lot. So features of the EcoFlow Rapid 5000, it's a 5000 milliamp hour battery. And for my iPhone 16, that's about 1.1 full charges from zero. Is enough for your normal day's use. It's IQ2 wireless charging, which is up to 15 watt. And wireless charging is becoming more and more a useful feature for me. Quite often I film most of my YouTube channel on the iPhone itself, and I use mics a lot. If I'm using mics, it means I can't have the phone on charge, and since I do long technical reviews, if the phone goes flat, that's a real pain. So having the ability to have my mic plugged in and then still charge the phone via the battery bank, excellent. You can also do wireless charging on Androids as well. Built in, it's got a USB-C port, which is bi-directional, and it's also got its own USB-C cable built in as well, up to 30 watt, which means if I've got any of my other USB devices, like my headphones, or even the lapel mics themselves, I can charge them pretty rapidly if required, which means I don't need to carry an additional cable. Being bi-directional means you can also charge it via those ports as well. And at 30 watt, this can do a full charge from 0 to 100% in 59 minutes, which is actually pretty good going for a power bank. It's also got its own kickstand, so you can have it in portrait, on landscape for watching things. It's a sleek, elegant design, so an easy everyday carry in your pocket. If you want to find more about the EcoFlow Rapid 5000, check out all the links in the description, and let's get back to the main video. Right, transport, the section you've all been waiting for, and I've divided it into 3 subcategories. So first one, tolls and parking. That was a grand total of £93, and most of those tolls were the bridges in Denmark and the bridge over to Sweden in Malmö, and a few little bits of parking up and outer. Generally, parking is mostly free in places, or there's easy access to apps just to pay if you need to. But the tolls getting into Sweden and through Denmark can be quite expensive. Next transport section is trains and ferries, and that was a grand total of £842. And this one can change a bit. So this year I decided to do the ferry, and that cost £280 ferry from Gothenburg in Sweden to Germany. But I think that works out cheaper than the fuel it would have cost and the tolls if I was going through Sweden and Denmark. And channel tunnel wise, because I booked them both last minute on the way back and the way out, they cost me about £290 and £260 for each way. If you book them early enough, they can be anywhere from just over £100. So even before, I've seen like £89 for the channel tunnel for my 6-metre vehicle. And the final section is fuel. So that was £3,170 on diesel alone for this trip. A small chunk of that, I think about 120 litres, would have been diesel for the diesel heater itself, but the rest of it is driving. That's considerably more than last year, but I also drove 7,000 miles last year, and this trip was about 10,400 miles, so considerably more. I'm not surprised when some of the nights I drove over the night from Finland to Lofoten to go help Ed find his drone. So generally this trip had a lot more driving than previous years, and therefore cost a bit more. And as you can see, the significant amount of the trip overall is transport related costs, especially fuel. So, and the grand total wise, I actually wanted to film the scene with nice white sand, but the tide's currently out, so there's seaweed on it. But the grand total was £6,750 for a 2-month trip, which was 61 days, 10,400 miles, which I'm reasonably happy with. A bit more expensive than last year, but I did do 3,000 more miles than last year. And if you wanted to take away my personal purchases, like the snowshoes, and the cost of breaking down in the vehicle and fixing that, you could probably make it around 6,000, 6,200, which I don't think is too bad for a 2-month trip. Across the 61 day, that works out at just over £100 a day, and across 10,400 miles and about £3,170 in diesel, about 31 pence a mile. And a new section, which I'm going to do this year, is costing and how it funds. Oh, I was hoping this was going to be sand. It's actually like broken coral and rock. Ugh. So this isn't going to be relevant for people watching it, but there are a lot of people who are curious about how my YouTube channel works, or how YouTube can work for funding things. So year 2, so season 2 in the Arctic, that took to about June, July that year to earn its money back. That trip's cost around £5,200. This trip, I said at the very beginning of the Arctic series this. But I need to start this season off with a thank you to the subscribers and to the viewers. You have funded this season already. Round 3 has already been paid for by 2 power station videos and AdSense revenue from November, December and January. And that's down to you guys watching the channel and helping it grow over the last couple of years. So I can't thank you enough. And that was very much true. I generally guessed it'd raise around the same £5,200 for the trip again, and the trip was completely funded by YouTube. So power station videos, which you guys don't always enjoy watching, which is fair enough, are one of the main ways I make income on this channel. And that's why earlier we had a sponsor for this video as well. That's already starting to fund Arctic trip round 4 and the new van. So whilst that information is not relevant for most people, some people are curious to how YouTube works. For me, I've managed to grow this YouTube channel now to a point where the trips, even if they're reasonably expensive are actually self-sufficient in funding. I go away and do trips. The channel gets bigger, more views, makes more money. I can invest into doing bigger trips and a new vehicle in the future. And that's all down to you guys. The other ways you can help fund the channel is always looking at the links in the description below. Working for Roma, I have the affiliate link for their batteries, and being a brand ambassador for Autotherm, where I've reviewed their diesel heaters and water heaters, as well as Amazon links and a lot more as well. So please do check out those links in the description. They do help the channel out a lot, and they fund all the free content like the Arctic stuff that you guys like and watch. Thank you very much for joining me. Oh, and if you've not subscribed, do subscribe and comment and like and stuff. But thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye. I'm absolutely blinded off this sun at the minute. Ugh.
Beer time.